Hello everyone, welcome back. So I hope all of you have gone through the activity and tried to solve it. Waiting for responses. Please say yes, no. I've got only 2 responses till now. What about others? Okay. Uh, Somebody from Sham Bazaar. So you were not able to access the activity while you don't have the TIRM? I was given a confirmation that everybody has received the TIRM. Let me check. What about others? Okay, I have got this confirmation that people from Shambazar who want to attend this training, they were to attend it from Camex Center because the TRM is available there. Similarly, people who are attending the training from Gurgaon Old DLF, they had to go to CP as the TRM has been is available at that particular location. Okay. About the others who have the TRM with them, have you been able to go through the activity and did you try out the solution? Uh, who's attending the training from Sector 32, Kolkata? So you're saying I'm supposed to receive the training. I'm from Kolkata KKG Center. So who's attending the training from Kolkata KKG Center? Please let me know your name. Okay. About the others who have received the TRM, all of you have been able to do the activity. I'm waiting for your responses, please. So as nobody is responding, I'll take people on air and then ask. So I've got a confirmation from CP that they have been able to do this activity. What about others? Is there anybody there at Ghatkopar Center? Swati, are you there? Swati, are you there? I've taken you on air. Mahalakshmi, Mahalakshmi, are you there? Mahalakshmi, I've taken you on air. I can't hear you. Please get your microphone checked. Ganesh Srinivasan, I'm taking you on air. NH33.
Hello.
Who's there?
Hello. Yeah, this is
Hello.
Maitreyi.
Can I have your name?
Hello. Maitreyi. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, can I have your name?
My name is Maitreyi.
Maitreyi. Maitreyi, were you able to do the exercise, the activity?
I'm on the process of doing it. I'm doing it. I have the theorem. I'm doing it.
Did you spend the last half an hour doing the activity or doing something else?
No, I was not having the theorem. I had gone up and got my theorem series now only.
Sorry?
I did not get the theorem, was not copied into the machine. So I contacted my TMI. I got the theorem copied. So I'm just now started the activity.
You should get all this material prepared before you come for the training, no?
Yeah, he said he'll copy and keep it ready, but the copying was not done completely. I had only the slides. This activity file was missing, so I just now got the CD and I'm opening it. The slides and the activity folders were copied. This Word file was not there.
So I've received only one confirmation from CP Center that the activity has been done. No one else has done the activity, which is not right, and I'm going to complain about it. Okay, so I suggest you better start doing your activities during the time that is provided to you. Otherwise, this is not going to work. Okay, I'll start with the next slide. So again, there's an animation that you need to watch. So you need to access it from your TIRM within the slides PPS folder. Okay. And in the next break, you must watch both the animations and complete the exercise that I had just given you. Okay, so now in this session, we are going to learn about wireframing. Now, what is a wireframe? Wireframe basically is a skeletal structure of an app. Wireframes help in the creation of the structure, hierarchy, and relationship between the various elements that collectively form the mobile app. Okay. So as I said earlier, wireframe is nothing but a kind of a sketch of your different screens in your app and how a person flows from one screen to another screen. So this is what is depicted in a wireframe. The process of creating wireframes is known as wireframing. The main aim of creating a wireframe is to plan the layout and interaction of an app. So it's not about only creating a layout for your app. It is also about creating the interaction or defining the interaction of your app. That means when on a particular screen, how will the user interact with the different user interface elements? How will the user move from one screen to the next screen? So all this is defined within a wireframe. During the creation of the layout, you define the size, background, and interface of the experience. Okay. The wireframes are not limited to defining the preceding parameters, so there are other parameters also that you can define with it. Wireframes can be created manually on paper and can also be created using various online tools such as Proto, Mockups, UXPin, Balsamiq, and Just in Mind. So there are several tools which are available that you can use for prototyping, and you can use these for creating wireframes for your app before you start developing the app. Now, how do wireframes help you? Before we move on further, let me ask you, what will be the benefit of creating a wireframe? Why do we create a wireframe? Waiting for responses. Just a glue of the app, which helps in smooth development. Templates to have a clear view of all the desired requirements before hard coding them and the challenges. Creating layout and defining the interactions. Blueprint, flow of the application. It helps to understand the relationship between elements of the mobile apps. Okay, so quite good. So basically it helps you to yourself understand how you're going to develop the app, what all functionality are you going to include, what UI elements are you going to include on each and every screen, how the user will move from one screen to the next screen. So it defines, it basically gives you that clarity of how you're going to go ahead and do all these things. In addition, what it helps is that once you have created a wireframe, you can share it with different stakeholders, maybe a supervisor, maybe a client, maybe another person who's a stakeholder, and you can take their feedback on that. So it helps you before you start developing your app. At that stage, things will become kind of you have already put in so much of effort in developing the app, and after that you give it to somebody to review and provide you feedback. So it becomes a lot of rework in case some changes are suggested. But at the wireframe stage, it's just that you have drawn a rough sketch of your application and how the user flows are happening, and then you take quick and early feedback on that wireframe, and which helps you to save a lot of time and effort, right? So this is another benefit of using wireframes. Now, what is the process of defining a wireframe, of creating a wireframe? So it consists of some 7 steps. The first is identify the constraints. then create a context, then represent page and screen flows, create a layout, represent inputs, represent gestures, and then annotate wireframes. So we'll look at all these points one by one. So let us go to the next slide where we'll talk about the first point, that is identify the constraints. So before you start designing a wireframe, you consider the various constraints, like what are the screen sizes for which you are developing the app. So probably you will need separate wireframes for each of those screen sizes or range of screen sizes. Then you have the second constraint is platform, which means for which platform are you going to design the app, and probably you'll have separate wireframes for different platforms. Then the interactions. So what are the different types of interactions which the device supports? So based on that, the interactions of the users with your app may also be different. So that is also one factor that you need to consider. Then app or mobile website. So whether you want to create it as an app or you want to create it as a mobile website. Okay, so basically a web app or a mobile app. Then smartphone or tablet. So whether you're designing it for a smartphone or a tablet, so layout and other things will be different in case you're trying to develop it for smartphone or if you're trying to develop it for a tablet. So accordingly, the wireframes will also be different for both these things. Then the next step in the wireframe creation process is creating the context. So as I said earlier, that you need to create separate wireframes for each platform, as the look and feel of each platform is different. So like you can see at the bottom of the slide, you have different images for different devices, and you can use these images to create your wireframes. So this provides a context within which you will actually define your wireframe. So these images of the screens or an outline of the different mobile apps. So you can see that there are two different things at the bottom of the screen. So one is an image of the different devices and the other is the outline of different mobile platforms. So either you can use an outline or you can use an image of that a particular device, and within that image or within that outline you can define the various UI elements and where you want to place them and all those things while creating your mobile app. So this provides a context within which you define your wireframe, right? So it helps in improving your visualization. It helps in improving the contextualization of the experience with respect to the device. It helps in handling situations where you need to refer to the hardware buttons, because when you have this context available, you have the hardware buttons. The reference of the hardware buttons is also there. So if you want to specify that the user needs to click a particular hardware button to do something, then you can easily refer to these buttons and you can mention it in your wireframe. Right? So after selecting the appropriate frame, you need to decide the size of the screen for creating the wireframe. So you've selected a frame, but then you also have to specify, you also have to decide what is the screen size that you're targeting with this particular thing. So if you're targeting multiple screen sizes, varied screen sizes, you will have to develop separate wireframes for each of those screen sizes. For multiple screen sizes, select a common resolution such as 480 by 800 pixels. While selecting a screen size, consider the proportion of the screen's width to height. The proportion or size matrix indicate how screen size and proportion change for mobile devices. Once selected a screen size, ensure that your device image outline matches the chosen screen size. Okay, so basically what we're trying to say here is that when we talk about the context, we talk about the outline of the device and then the screen size of the device. So you have to consider what screen size you are referring to, and then accordingly you will design the wireframe for that particular screen size. Then the third step is representing the page and screen flows. So like you can see here at the bottom of the screen, there is a figure where we have three screens, 1, 2, and 3, and which are connected through arrows. So basically it represents a screen flow. So first of all, the user opens the app, he gets the first screen, then he does something, he moves to the second screen, and he does something, and he moves to the third screen. So this is how you connect the different screens in your app. Okay. So once you have done this, so now, in case a user flow spans across more than 3 to 4 screens, try to break the user flow into 2 or more user flows. So in case you think that a user flow is getting too long, so more than 3 screens are getting used. So in that case, it's better to break the user flow into 2 parts, so that each part is less than or equal to 3 screens, not more than 3 screens. For example, if you have to create a user flow to create a user account on a job portal, right? So on a job portal, you have to add a lot of information, like for example, you have to add your personal information, you have to add academic information, then you have to add your experience details. So instead of having a single user flow which takes inputs on all these parameters, you can divide it into 3 different user flows. One user flow for submitting the personal details, another for submitting the academic details, and another for submitting the experience details. This is because when the user flow becomes too long, user kind of gets distracted from your app. They don't want to have long user flows. The next step after defining the user flow is creating a layout. So when creating a layout, you have to use a large paper size for drawing. Create the first screen of the context using the device skin. So you have to use a device skin like this to create the first screen. And the remaining screens, you don't need to use a device skin. You can just use a rectangular box of the size of the screen. Then you have to write the name of the flow. So what is the name of this particular flow, this complete flow? You have to write that. Then write the name of the app. So what is the name of the app in which this particular flow exists? That you need to write. And then create the first page as a template and use it repetitively to maintain consistency. So you have created the first page, and then you can use the same dimensions and same everything to define the remaining pages of your wireframe. So now when you're designing a wireframe, so suppose you're designing a wireframe for Android, so the Android keyboard is different from the iOS keyboard or from the Windows keyboard. So while designing the UI, the wireframe for a particular platform, you need to consider which platform are you using, and the UI elements that you draw on the wireframe should be in accordance with the platform that you're using. So if you're using an Android, if you're drawing the wireframe for an Android phone, then you need to use a keyboard that is, that gives a clear picture of what an Android keyboard is like. Similarly, the text boxes, the various buttons, the various controls, they should give the look and feel of these particular UI elements as they appear on that particular platform. For the convenience of the designers, UI elements are generally provided by various platforms in the form of stencils that can be used easily. So there are several stencils which are provided, ready-made built, components which are provided, which you can just plug and play. You can just use them as is. The next step is representing the gestures on a wireframe. So at times you may want to show that on a particular screen the user has to, swipe here, or he has to tap here, or he has to pinch or zoom or something like that. So all those gestures you can show like this. You can just check the third figure on the slide. So it shows that you can slide the slider left or right, and then what are the different gestures that you can use with the app. So all are being shown on the wireframe. So you can show gestures either in the form of these gestures with fingers. So you can either show them like this with the fingers, or you can show them without the fingers, like what is shown in the second figure on the slide. And finally, the third figure shows how to use these gestures on your wireframe. Then last step is annotating the wireframes. Annotating wireframes means that every action or interaction that you want to capture has to be explained on the wireframe with the help of notes. So adding notes to the wireframe is known as annotating the wireframe. If you want to open a keyboard when the app is launched, you should annotate this information on the first screen. You should also annotate the available gestures for the UI elements on a screen. Now, if you are unable to annotate the required information on the screen pages, you should use extra sheets for annotation. Okay. So this brings us to the end of this session. So at the end of this session, I would want you to go through those two animations that we talked about during this session and the previous session. So you should go through those animations, plus you should do that exercise. Whoever has not completed, as I think most of you have not been able to complete it. So please complete it, and we'll meet at 2 o'clock. So be there in time, please, all of you.
Break.
Hello everyone, welcome back for the last session of the day. I hope all of you are back. Please give me a show of hands. What about others? Please give a show of hands to confirm your presence. Everyone, please give a show of hands. Please type yes to confirm your presence. Okay, I'm still waiting for more people to join because I've only received 6 confirmations till now. In the meantime, somebody has asked me about slide number 20 of the last session. Sorry, slide number 30 of the last session. So I'll just quickly cover it again. Okay. So here we are on slide number 30. So what we're trying to say here is that when we interact with mobile devices, we typically interact through swipe and touch gestures. But when we have to represent inputs in a wireframe, okay, inputs would mean that you have a form where you have to actually type something rather than just touching and swiping. You have to type something. So in that case, what happens is that there's an on-screen keyboard that comes up and occupies a part of your screen. So while designing your wireframes, you have to take care of that thing and you have to use the actual size of the keyboard so that it is clear that what part of the screen will get covered by the keyboard and what part will be visible to the user. And you have to specify in case the field in which the input is being taken, if it gets covered by the keyboard, by the on-screen keyboard, then the thing should scroll up so that the element in which you are trying to take the input is visible on the screen while the on-screen keyboard is present on the screen. Okay, and for that the guideline is that you should use the actual size. You should use the actual size of the keyboard of the keypad, which is available on that particular platform for which you are designing the wireframe. Is it clear now, Soumya? So this query was put up by Soumya Ray. Soumya, please confirm if it is clear now. Soumya, are you there? Let me take him on air. It appears that Soumya is no longer there. Everyone, I would request you all to be present while the training is going on. So when I take somebody on air and the person is not available on his desk, then I will have to complain about it. Okay? So I would request all of you to be available whenever a training session is going on. You should be there at your desk. Okay? So any queries, any doubts in whatever we have covered till now? Okay. So since there are no queries, I'll proceed to the next session. Okay. So in this session, we are going to learn about creating wireframes, and we are going to learn about some navigational patterns. So let us start by discussing the wireframes. So we already discussed how to create wireframes. Now here are some additional cases that need special mention on how to create wireframes for those cases. So first is representing motion, because when we are talking about mobile phones, so it's not just the touch gestures or the inputs that we need to provide. It is also about moving the device. You must have played games where you have to move the device or tilt the device in order to play the game. Any examples of such games? If you have played any? Yes, Temple Run, Subway Surf, these are some examples of games where you have to actually tilt the device, move the device in order to play the game. Okay, so if you are designing such kind of an app where the app can detect the motion of the device and accordingly take some action. So maybe a car moves from side to side depending upon which direction you are tilting your device. So that kind of an app, for that kind of an app, when you're designing a wireframe, you would also need to represent the motion of the device. So how do you represent the motion? So like you can see on the screen, on your on the presentation, on the slide, there are two figures. On the right hand side there is a figure where we are showing two arrows to show the direction in which the device is being tilted. Okay, and accordingly the character on the screen or the object on the screen moves, right? And then there is another figure here where we're changing the orientation of the device. So again there are two arrows here, one on the top right corner of the device and one on the bottom left corner of the device. So these arrows are again indicating that you are changing the orientation of the device, and once the orientation is changed, you can see that the layout of the app has changed. So these kind of things will also need to be represented in a wireframe, right? Then next is representing multiple devices. So when you are targeting multiple devices, so let's say one Android phone, one iOS phone, one BlackBerry phone, or maybe different screen sizes. So you have to create separate wireframes for all. So like here what we say is, when designing an app for multiple devices such as iPhone or iPad, you should ensure that the mobile experience fits well in different screen sizes. You need to create multiple designs for the app so that it can be viewed properly on both the devices. To handle different screen sizes, you need to use a combination of wireframes and annotations. So like you can see here in the figure on the slide, so there are two different screen sizes, and the same is mentioned as an annotation along with each of these two UI screens. So you have a figure, you have a wireframe, plus you have an annotation to depict that what is the screen size that this wireframe is referring to. Okay, so now we have a problem statement. So after this session, I would want you to go through this problem statement and try to work out a wireframe, try to create the wireframes for the application which are there. On the next slide, you will also find the solution to this problem statement. But before you see the solution, I would want you to actually try out creating the wireframe yourself. And only if you're not able to do it, or of course you'll be able to do something, and maybe few things you'll not know how to do it. So afterwards, once you have tried, then you should look at the solution to see how it can be done. But the solution is only a sample solution. It is not the only way of doing it. So there can be many different ways to achieve the same result, right? So please keep in mind that this is only a sample solution, and it is very expectable that somebody may come up with a different wireframe for the same scenario. Again, we have an animation here which I want you to look at after this session. So now we have 3 animations to look at. One from chapter 1, one from chapter 2, and one from chapter 3. Okay. Now this animation is about navigational patterns. Now what are navigational patterns? Okay, before I proceed further, okay, so I have a query which says, please clear my doubt from NH33, CNH33. What is the doubt?
Hello. Ma'am, am I audible? Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Am I audible, ma'am? Ma'am, am I audible? Hello.
Yes, now you are audible.
Can you hear me, ma'am? Ma'am, you were explaining, when I place my keyboards and play layouting, each and every time for each and every operating system, should I say the layout and framework separately?
Your voice is not very audible. It's very dim. Can you keep the microphone a little in front of your mouth somewhere? Because
ma'am, I asked. You were explaining me while saying wireframe creation. For a BlackBerry OS, I have to create it separately. For an Android, I have to create it separately. So each and every time, should I create the wireframe separately? Isn't this a time-consuming job?
yes, it is.
Or
It is.
can't I have?
It is definitely a time-consuming.
Can't I have one place?
Yeah, tell me.
Can't I have one wireframe and change just the layout and the navigation panel accordingly, depending upon the operating system in which I work on?
Okay. So there are different types of apps like we discussed. So we have native apps, we have cross-platform apps, and other types of apps, right? So when we are developing a native app, we are actually developing a separate app for each platform. Okay. So the keyboard, keypad and all component shapes and everything is different for different types of platforms, right? So it is possible that on one platform the size of the keyboard is a little bigger, on the other platform it is a little smaller. So that's why it is always suggested that you should use while creating wireframes, to give you a clear idea of how much screen space will be occupied by that particular platform's keypad. You use the actual size of the keypad, so that at the stage of creating a wireframe it is clear to you that only this much space will be left for me, in which I can show all my other components, and whichever component I want to whichever component is currently being accessed by the user, it has to be scrolled up to that particular level so that the user can access it. Have I answered your query?
Yeah, but ma'am, this keyboard, no ma'am, each and every one of us.
Your voice is not clear.
Our wish, no.
Your voice is not.
Every one of us can change the keyboard orientation, no ma'am. Like for example, few of us will be using the QWERTY keyboard that we have, or else I can change it to the 3x4 keyboard, which was the older version of the keyboard. In that case, how will we predict these changes?
So you're saying that on the single platform, or you're talking about multiple platforms?
Yeah, because in nowadays we get Android phones which supports multiple keyboards.
Mm-hmm.
Like they can support a keyboard which is 3x4. I get a normal or QWERTY keyboard which we have in all our Windows phones.
Mm-hmm.
So now, when an Android phone can have both, how will I create my wireframe?
Okay, so maybe I'll need to take some reference for this, but what I understand is that although the types of keyboards are maybe different and they may have different placement of keys, but the size of the keyboard on a platform would be the same. Okay, so if it is an Android, it may have different keys, but the different keyboards being offered for a particular platform may have different keys, but the size would be the same. Okay, so if the size is the same, so what we are considered about, the factor that we are considered about is the size of the keyboard, which varies across the platforms. Okay, now have I answered your query? Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so now we are done with the wireframing part, and now we are going to start with navigational patterns. So now, what are navigational patterns? Any idea about design patterns or any other kind of patterns that you might have heard about? I need answers. Waiting for your responses. So what are patterns or design patterns? Guys, I'm a little not sure who all are there and who are not there, so I need to take a roll call for you guys. So please type a yes when you hear your name. So Jaya, are you there? Shruti, are you there? Shruti? Emmanuel from NIT Sadar. Thaila from NIT Chennai. Adyar Center. Jaya, Jaya, your response has come quite late. Where were you? Debasri. Please, while the session is going on, please don't go anywhere. You had a break in between to drink water, so whatever you need, you take. You please collect everything during the break, and with when the session is going on, everybody should be here. Debasri, Maria Sophia, Roshini, Maitreyi, Sayantan. Who's there from NH33? Maitreyi, Sayantan, are you there? Chesta, Chesta from NIT Model Town. Gajendra from NIT Model Town. Swati from Deccan NIT. Soumya from NIT Chemex Street. Soumya, you were absent. We took you on air. Where were you? Mandar from NIT Chemex Street. Soumya, I'm waiting for your answer. Where were you? We took you on air. Mandar is not there. Ankita. Karuna, I'm still in the process of calling names. So I'll come to your name also. Rajni. Rajni is not there. Mahalakshmi. Sunil from Sector 14, Gurgaon. Swati from Connaught Place. Swati from CP. Priya from Agra Center. Karunambika from Coimbatore. Amit Punetha. Amit Punetha? No. Rameshwari? Rameshwari is not there. Okay, so we have 8 people right now on air, and whenever I ask a question, I should get responses from all 8 of you, please. Okay? Okay, so what are design patterns? If you don't know, just say don't know, but please respond. What are design patterns? Somebody is saying MVC, DO, factory pattern, singleton, design pattern, navigation patterns. What are navigation patterns? Decide how we will interact with the app. Okay. Design patterns are those which we use in UML. Okay. Yes, we have something called design patterns in UML as well. So what are they? They're basically ways of designing applications, standard ways of designing applications, I would say, which have proved to be useful in certain kind of situations. So let's say I have to develop a particular kind of an application. So many people have built it in the past, and there are certain ways of developing it which have kind of become a standard. That this kind of application, if we build it using this kind of a pattern, then it always achieves good results. Okay, so that becomes a pattern which others can also follow when they develop similar kinds of apps, similar kinds of applications. Okay, now similarly, when we are talking about the user experience design of apps, so suppose you have to develop an app. Now, while developing the user experience of your app, you can either think about different ways of how you should go about designing the app, what kind of pattern should you use, what kind of user elements should you use, or what you can do is you can select from an available set of patterns which have proved useful over the years. Okay, so you can select one of those patterns and you can use it for implementing whatever requirement you have. Okay, so there are a standard set of patterns, user experience patterns, which have been developed, and when you have to design the user experience of an app, you can select from among those patterns whichever pattern meets your requirement. You can just use that rather than reinventing the wheel and trying to come up with something different. Okay? Is this point clear to all of you? I'm looking for 8 responses at least, because 8 people as per me are present, others are absent. Again, I have got only 3 responses. You just have to type a yes or a no. What's taking you so long? Okay. Jaya, I'm taking you on air. I want you to explain to Soumya and anybody else who has not understood what design patterns are. Okay. Somebody else? Shruti, we couldn't connect to Jaya, so I'm taking you on air. Shruti. Shruti, we can't see you.
Hello.
Yeah, Shruti. Can you adjust the camera, please? Yeah.
The navigation pattern is like how you're going to, the design pattern, like we need to design how we are going to navigate from one page to another. That is what the design pattern is of the navigation.
Okay. It's not just about navigation, Shruti. I'm taking you off there. So it's not just about navigation, it's about how you are designing the user experience of your app. It could be about navigation, it could be about how you access the geolocation features, how you access the accelerometer and other things. Okay, so it's about if you have to design a particular kind of app which provides a particular kind of functionality, so what are the different ways in which you can provide that kind of a functionality, and those features which have been tried and tested and which are available as standards, rather than trying to invent something of your own, you can use what patterns are available for designing your user experience rather than creating something from scratch. Okay. So we'll see where we have different types of navigational patterns. The first type of navigational pattern that we are going to discuss here is the navigational patterns. So let us see what navigational patterns are. Okay, so what does navigation mean? It means finding the way with the help of signs and landmarks. Now, in mobile apps, what does navigation mean? In the context of mobile apps, navigation helps users to identify where they are, how they need to proceed, and how they can visit the previous screen. Now, navigation patterns will help your UX designers to implement navigation in mobile apps. I just can't see this. And they will allow users to navigate the app with ease. Now, there are two types of navigation patterns: primary navigation patterns and secondary navigation patterns. Now, primary navigation patterns are those which are always available to the user. They are always there. But secondary navigation patterns allow users to navigate within a page or a module. Okay. So primary navigation patterns, the definition of primary navigation patterns is that they allow users to navigate at the application level. Okay, so they are not restricted to a particular screen or a particular page, they allow the user to navigate at the application level. So from one functionality to the other functionality to the third functionality, they allow you to move in that manner. Whereas secondary navigation patterns are those which are relevant only to a particular screen. So they may not be relevant to the entire application. They may be relevant only to a particular screen within the application. Okay. So, primary navigation patterns are used for primary navigation such as top level menus or main menus. So they enable the user to navigate from one parent category to another. Now, primary navigation patterns again are of two types, persistent and transient. Now, what do you mean by persistent and transient? What is persistent? Okay, whoever doesn't respond to my question, I'm going to note down their names and I'm going to report it. Okay, so please better start responding to my questions. So what do you mean by persistent? Okay. Somebody says, Jaya says persistent means storing into permanent memory, while transient means not storing or saving. Okay. CP says to make something visible in a particular pattern. What does that mean? Persistent navigation is which are fixed or permanent. Okay. Data storage. Then another response says persistent means permanent, having certain duration. So very right. Determined navigation. Okay. So persistent means which is always there. It is persistent, means it is there, right? So it's not related to data storage or anything. It's like something which is always available and something which is not always available but appears on a particular click of a button or appears on a swipe. That is transient. But something which is always visible and is always available is persistent. Okay. So let's say you open an app and you have a tab bar which is always displayed at the bottom of the page, and you can always use it anytime you want to move from one functionality to another functionality. You can just tap that an option on the tab button and you will be directed to that particular functionality. So that means that this tab bar is persistent, or this is a persistent means of navigation. Whereas transient would mean something like you tap a button and then a menu appears and then you can select from that menu, and as soon as you are done, the menu disappears again. If you want to make it appear again, you have to again tap the button and then it will appear. Okay, so it is not always there, it is not always present. It appears as and when the user wants it to appear. Is this clear? Is this clear? Okay. Now there are some persistent navigation patterns like springboard, list menu, gallery and tab menu. These are all persistent navigation patterns, which means that they are always available. So when an app launches, persistent navigation patterns are displayed to users. These patterns are known as persistent, meaning continuous existence. because they remain accessible to users throughout the app. Okay, so they are always there. Whichever page you go to, you will always be able to see them. Okay. Now, one example of a persistent navigation pattern is a springboard. So you can see a springboard in the two figures that are there on the screen. So it's nothing but a set of icons which are arranged in a grid format, and you can select an icon, you can tap on an icon to open that particular functionality or that particular app. So this is a standard navigation patterns which is used at the operating system level and within apps also. So a very standard kind of pattern wherever you have multiple options or multiple features or functionalities which are available, you just display them in a grid format, which has come to be known as a springboard for launching the different functionalities. Is this clear? Yeah, is the concept of a springboard clear? Okay. So now let's go to the next slide. Now, springboard is also known as a launch pad. A springboard can contain a large number of options that cannot fit into a single screen. So we can have paging indicators. Can you see these dots here at the bottom of this screen? The figure which is there on the slide, there are some 4 dots which are there. What do these dots represent? What do the dots represent? I'm waiting for answers. Yeah. So they represent that there are more pages. So there are few more pages. So that means if there are 4 dots, that means there are 4 pages. So you are on the first page right now, which is highlighted. The first dot is highlighted, which means that currently you are on the first page, and there are 3 more pages to follow. Okay. So while using a springboard pattern, this is a common notation that we use to represent multiple options which are present on the springboard. So these are known as paging indicators. Okay, so it indicates that there are more pages. And to move to the next page, users can use a swipe action, a swipe gesture. Now, usually the icons on a springboard are the same size. Regular same size icons are there. But at times, to emphasize certain things or to make something more prominent, the proportion of the grid elements is changed at times. Like for example, in this screenshot, you can see that this element in the middle is occupying more space than the others. Okay, so this is done to emphasize a particular thing, or when you want to display something which needs more space. So usually the grid structure is consistent, but at times you have to make it inconsistent. So like here, these two are smaller boxes in the grid, but this one is a larger option. Then another navigation pattern which comes under the persistent category is the list menu. So list menu is used when you need to use hierarchical navigation. So what do we mean by hierarchical navigation? All of you must be familiar with Facebook. So on Facebook, we usually when we put our status, we say feeling happy, excited, sad, or something like that. So for that, there are multiple menus which appear. So we have a menu which has options like feeling and watching and reading and listening to and drinking. And then there is another option which has those, for feelings it has a different set of options, for watching it has a different set of options. So this is kind of a hierarchical menu which is there. So when you need to implement this kind of a menu, this kind of a menu basically known as a list menu, and it is also a standard navigational pattern. And whenever you have any such kind of a requirement where you need to allow the user to select options in a hierarchical fashion, so then you can use this kind of a pattern rather than trying to innovate something of your own. Okay. So then some devices have a hardware back button which allows you to go to the previous screen. But devices like iOS do not have a hardware back button. So in that case, you have a back button here somewhere which allows you to move to the previous screen of your application. So this is again a standard navigation pattern. Wherever you have some requirement to move back to the previous screen, you can use this kind of a navigation. Then another persistent navigation pattern is gallery. You must have seen news sites where you have these images kind of a thing with or without these captions which appear below them. And you can click on an image to view the details or some live information, some video or something, right? So this kind of a pattern which is kind of a springboard, but springboard is usually an icon or something with the app, the name of the functionality written below it. But here we usually have some videos or images which are arranged in a grid format, and then you can tap on an image to view its details. This is called a gallery design pattern. Then still another persistent navigation pattern is the tab bar, which is also known as tab menu. So basically, tab bar provides various primary options to users to quickly find the information related to an app. So tab bar usually does not contain more than 4 or 5 items that are represented on the tab bar through icons. In case you want to include more than 4 or 5 items, then you need to use a more icon, something like this, which appears at the right corner of this figure on the slide, the 3 ellipses. So you can tap these ellipses and then it will show you more options. Now tab bar can be positioned either at the top or the bottom of the screen. So here you can see there's a tab bar here at the top. Here we have it at the bottom. Here again we have it at the bottom. Tab bar of Windows Phone is known as the app bar, which appears at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so this with this the persistent navigation patterns are over. Any doubts till now? Anything that you have not understood till now? So everything is clear. So let's move on to transient navigation patterns. Okay. Now transient navigation patterns, why do we need them? Why can't we make all the functionality available to the user all the time? Yeah, I'm looking for responses from all of you. Why can't we make all the functionality available to the users all the time? Why do we need transient patterns? Because we said transient patterns are those which appear maybe on the tap of a button or on a swipe gesture or something. So they're not always visible. They have to be made visible. Yes, because of the screen size, because the dimensions of the screen are small. So because we're talking about mobile devices which are small in size and we have limited screen estate, okay, we have limited screen space, so we need transient navigation patterns so that we can save some space. Okay, so we will make the navigation patterns visible when we want to use them, otherwise they will remain hidden, right? So transient navigation patterns have evolved due to the limited screen size of a smartphone. These patterns are temporary patterns. Unlike persistent patterns, these patterns are not visible to the mobile users all the time. These patterns remain hidden until the users reveal them with a tap or a gesture. These patterns are available for a short time to users only to make a selection. Okay. Now there are two types of transient patterns, side drawer and toggle menu. Anyone knows what a side drawer is? What is a side drawer? It's a menu type which opens on request. Okay. So it's a menu which is kind of hidden on, let's say, the left edge of the screen or the right edge of the screen, and when you do a swipe gesture, the menu comes out of the edge. Okay. So it's a panel. Yes, it's a panel which is not visible on the screen, but when you do a swipe gesture, so maybe it is hidden behind the left edge of your screen, and when you do a swipe gesture like this, then the panel comes out of the edge, and then you can see it has at times menu options which you can select, and when you have selected the menu option, it just goes off. Okay, it disappears. Yeah. Like Gmail, you have a hidden panel which appears when you swipe. Okay. So they are all transient patterns. Okay, side drawer. And then you have a toggle menu. Toggle menu is something which appears on the tap of a button. So you tap a button and it appears, and then you tap the button again, and then the menu disappears. Okay. So side drawer basically comes out when you do a swipe gesture, but toggle menu is it appears when you tap a button, and then when you tap the button again, it again disappears. Now there are two types of side drawers: overlay side drawer and inlay side drawer. Now what do we mean by overlay and inlay? Now overlay would mean that, let's say you have an app screen visible, and when you take out the side drawer will overlap over the screen, and the place where you have the side drawer, that part of the screen will now not be visible to the user, and the remaining part will be visible to the user. So it kind of appears over your screen like this. So this was your screen, and when you take out the side drawer, it comes over this screen and it hides part of the page, okay, and the remaining page is visible. So this is overlay. But in case of inlay, what happens is that this is your page and this is your side drawer. So when you take out the side drawer, it actually pushes the page forward. Okay, so it doesn't come over the page, it pushes the page forward, so that now the side drawer is visible, and a portion of the page just goes beyond the screen and is now not visible. Okay, is the difference between overlay and inlay clear? The difference between overlay and inlay, is it clear? Okay. 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 So let me move forward to the next slide. Okay. So now we are talking about toggle menu. So as I said, toggle menu is nothing but a button which you tap and then the menu appears, and when you tap the button again, the menu disappears. Again, toggle menu is of two types, overlay and inlay. I think I have an image of this on the next slide, so let me show it to you. Okay, so here we have an example of an overlay toggle menu. So what happens, this is the button. When I click this button, the menu opens and it covers the screen. The page contents are not visible now because the menu has covered the screen contents. But if you see the next figure, here we have an inlay toggle menu. So we have a button here. When I click the button, or when I tap the button, the menu opens and it pushes the screen downwards. Rather than covering it, it pushes the screen downward. Is this clear to all of you? Okay. So let me move on to the next slide. Okay. So now we are done with the persistent navigation patterns, and now we are going to talk about the secondary navigation patterns. Now, secondary navigation patterns are those patterns which are relevant only to a particular screen. They may not be relevant to the entire application as such. They will be relevant only to a particular screen. So these patterns contain menu options that enable users to navigate within a selected module. Unlike primary navigation patterns that are available to users at the app level, secondary navigation patterns are available at the page level. Primary navigation patterns can also be used for secondary navigation. For example, springboards can also be used for secondary navigation. So those springboards are mostly used for primary navigation, but if required, they can also be used for secondary navigation. And similarly, the patterns which are used for secondary navigation can also be used for primary navigation, but most cases they are suitable only for secondary navigation. Now, secondary navigation patterns, we have three types here: page swiping, scrolling tabs, and accordion. So let us look at all these in detail. So first of all, we'll look at page swiping. Page swiping functions like turning of the pages of a notebook. Page swiping enables users to access the information spread across multiple screens through a swipe gesture. Page indicators are displayed on the screen to indicate that there are more number of screens. Page indicators help users to move from one screen to another. So like you're filling up a form. Okay, and it is a long form and you have number of pages to fill. So in that case, what happens is the form is usually divided into multiple pages. So you fill up some information on one page and then you swipe and go to the next page, and then you fill up some information there and then again you swipe and go to the next page, and then finally you enter all the information and submit the form. So this kind of page swiping navigation you can use at that particular instance. Then we have scrolling tabs, like you can see here. So if you have, let's say we have 5 or 6 tabs, and at a time only 3 tabs are visible. So you can make these tabs scrollable so that user can scroll them to look at more options which are there. And the third is accordion. Accordion, if you have learned HTML5, JavaScript and all, so maybe you would have learned about accordion. So accordion is basically something like this. So you have an option here. Okay. So you have an option here which says clothing, and it has a plus sign. If you see carefully, there's a plus sign over here. Okay, and right now, whatever comes under clothing, all the different categories which come under clothing are listed over here. And below this, you have another button for accessories. Again, you have a plus button here. So when you click the plus button, so whatever categories are available under accessories, they will be open, and just like right now they are visible for clothing, they will be visible for accessories. Okay, so this so main categories are there in the form of black buttons over here, and the subcategories are displayed when you click on a main category. So this is an accordion design pattern. Okay, so if you have some main categories and followed by some subcategories, so you want the user to first select a main category and then a subcategory, so you can use this kind of a design pattern. Okay. Okay, so that's it for today. Tomorrow we'll cover some more design patterns, but today I would want you to go through the first 2 complete chapters and the third chapter till secondary navigation patterns, and try to identify if there are any queries, any doubts that you have that you can put up in tomorrow's session, and we'll try to cover that. And also I would want you to go through the animations and the exercise, the activities and the exercises of chapter 1 and 2. So we'll meet tomorrow, but I expect all of you to have done the work that I've asked you to do. Have a good day.